Kevin Casey, Executive Director of the School Administrators Association of New York State. On behalf of the SAANYS Board of Directors and staff, I'm honored to present to you our 2021 award winners. These leaders have been chosen by their colleagues as exemplars of their profession, notably rising to the unbelievable challenges before them during this pandemic, just as all of you have been challenged to do. Throughout the state, we have seen school communities come together to assure the safety and prosperity of our students. And here, in addition to acknowledging our award winners, we also acknowledge all of you, school educators around the state who continue to lead that charge. Please join me in this video salute to 9 of our state's most outstanding school and community leaders. I wish them and all of you strength and perseverance as you continue with the very challenging work the school year will bring. It is my sincere belief that New York schools and students are in the very best of hands.
Hello, I'm Dan Walt, principal of Transit Middle School in the Williamsville Central School District in East Amherst, New York, in the Western New York region. I'd like to say thank you to SAANYS for recognizing me as their recipient for the Principal of the Year Award. There are outstanding principals throughout New York State doing amazing things for their students, teachers, and communities every day. It is a pleasure to be their colleague, and I'm honored to have been named for this recognition. The committee asked me to share a few reflective thoughts on what has been the motivating factor that took me down the road of school administration. I have some very vivid memories of interactions I had early in my career when I was an elementary and middle school teacher. I was teaching in a small farm town outside of Denver, and my first principal, Dr. Shawn Feaster Johnson, she was an amazing, full-of-life principal, passionate about ensuring we educated the whole child and always made sure we, her faculty, never thought that we were better than the families we were serving. She really helped teachers stay humble and took a servant leadership perspective. She was the pivotal person in my life at the moment when I was deciding on graduate school. She was the one who tapped me and said, "You should consider administration for your master's. I think you'd make a good leader someday." I was taken back by this, but I followed her advice. And then Dr. Siegfried, my second principal. When I was a middle school teacher, again in Colorado, he modeled the importance and art of true leadership, leading people, all people, teachers, aides, secretaries, custodial crew, drivers, everyone in a large middle school so that we all worked together. We all rowed in the same direction for a common purpose. As an aspiring leader in a school learning about leadership, I was able to see leadership in action every day at work. And I was amazed at how he could engage so many people throughout the school community. He taught me the importance of relationships at every level of the organization. When I looked at Scott, I thought, that's the kind of leader I want to be someday. So my message to my fellow principals and SAANY friends is to consider and think about those who came before you, a coach, a principal, a superintendent, whose leadership allowed you to see yourself, whose leadership was inspirational, who allowed you to learn from and model after. Think about those who impacted you every day. And as we begin to carve our path and leave our administrative footprints throughout our schools and school communities, that we also take on the responsibility to see the potential in our future leaders. That we become the principals who tap others and tell them they can lead. And that we model and nurture their leadership so that when they step up, hopefully they take the best of who we are and carry the torch for the next generation of educational leaders. Again, I'd like to thank you, SAANYS, for allowing me to share my thoughts with all the amazing administrators throughout New York State, and I hope you all have a great year. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you to SAANYS for awarding me the New York State Middle School Principal of the Year. My name is Kate Palumbo, and I am the principal at Cornwall Central Middle School in Orange County, New York. We are just a little bit north of West Point, and this is an amazing place to work, so I am very, very humbled. One of the things that we really learned in the pandemic was how important our relationships are with other people. Making sure that we were taking care of each other and our students and our families became our priority. And we found that over time that those bonds strengthened and allowed for us to have a more positive environment within our school. Post-pandemic, I really hope that all of our students and staff continue to focus on their social emotional health and well-being, and we continue to focus on teaching students the skills they need to be successful members of society. I also hope that our teachers and administrators continue the trajectory of learning and growth that we have over the last 2 years. I can't express enough how proud I am of all of the staff and students and families in Cornwall and the changes that they were able to make within their own classrooms and their own homes so that learning could be possible. And I hope that we continue with this momentum that we have built, and we continue to build on our teaching skills and our technology skills. I wish the best to all of my colleagues and SAANYS administrators, and I thank you again for this award.
Good evening, SAANYS family. It is great to be in the house of the SAANYS administrators, principals, teachers, family, friends, loved ones. That is the greeting that I give the Van Dyne Champs every morning. I remind them how great it is to be in the house of the Champs every day. Throughout the season of COVID, when we were all quarantining and going through hybrid instruction, I learned that during that awful season of the pandemic, that we needed each other to survive. So, starting in March 2020, I went on Facebook Live every morning to reconnect our students, our teachers, the community, binding us together, reminding us that through it all, we would survive if we stayed connected to one another. Surprisingly, the announcements went from March of 2020 to June of 2021. And people throughout the community of Syracuse, our students, our teachers, and I'm going to tell you, nationally and even some international friends connected with Van Dyne Elementary and were reminded that we are all in this together. The greatest lesson learned during the pandemic is that we will not make it. We will not allow our children to have successful lives. They will not achieve their greatness if they don't understand the value of relationships and how important we are to one another. As a result of that, throughout the season of COVID, our team here at Van Dyne spent countless hours reading, reflecting, and thinking about equity, thinking about cultural relevance, thinking about how the health services of our young people, the food needs of our families, the educational supplies, the books, the resources, the time, the attention. We looked at all of those pieces together through the lens of cultural responsiveness. And from that, we have come up with a plan for our 2021-22 school year so that our students, one, will knit themselves back together through strong relationships, and our teachers, along with our family and our community members, will understand that equity, cultural responsiveness, and the social emotional needs of our students is paramount to their academic success. So my SAANYS family, I thank you for giving me the award of New York State Elementary Principal of the Year. I thank you for your generous view of what we are trying to accomplish here in Syracuse. And I thank you on behalf of the Van Dyne Elementary School family and the Syracuse City School District, the Syracuse community, for honoring me with this award, because not only do I hold it in my hands, but I also share it with all of those that I've named. We are one, and the pandemic has taught us that we need each other to thrive. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Liana Watt, former assistant principal at Fairport High School and newly appointed principal at Penfield High School. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share some of the answers to the questions posed to us about leadership during and post-pandemic. One of the biggest takeaways that I've had is the renewed importance of our relationships, not only with our students, but with our colleagues. It's never been more important for us to check in on one another, to support one another, given how challenging the past 2 years have been for all of us. It's also reinforced for us, despite all of the amazing gains we've made in technology and all of the hard work teachers done to make instruction accessible to our students virtually and in hybrid models, that face-to-face human connection has never been more prevalent. That's what our students, that's what our families need from us on a day-to-day basis. That's not something we can ever replace. I think post-pandemic, we are going to see a shift that will force us to be reflective and think about what is most important when we are with our students in person. Taking a really hard look at making sure our students' basic needs are being met as soon as they step foot into our buildings is paramount. And from there, really being able to focus on the most important learning, the most critical standards that we're looking for our students to meet on a regular basis. We're looking forward to that challenge here. We're looking forward to being back with students full time again. And again, I'm so appreciative of being recognized by such an incredible organization, and I'm happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Scholes. I am a vice principal in the Syracuse City School District, and I am truly honored to accept the SAANYS Leader in Digital Education Award. I also want to personally thank my Superintendent Alisea, and Executive Director, Dr. Rob DeFlorio, for recommending me for the award. I wanted to write a script out for this. However, I've realized in the last year and a half, nothing that we have done has been by the script. We've all acted by and through our heart. And so I wanted to share some of the questions that I was asked to share simply by speaking from my heart. The first question that they asked us is, what is the greatest leadership lesson that we have learned through this pandemic? For me, it has been that no matter what type of leader I might want to be, maybe it's that transformational leader that I want to be, that I always have to remember to be a servant leader first, that I have to model the way for my staff first and foremost in everything that I do. That means getting in the trenches. That means picking up a broom. That means serving food. That means jumping in and teaching a class. Whatever it might mean, it means that I have to serve first, because when I'm serving in that moment, I'm able to encourage the heart of the individuals that I'm leading. And when you get the chance to encourage their heart, you show them that you value them. You show them that you value not only their career and their professional lives, but also their personal lives. That's what I've learned through the pandemic. One of the other questions that they asked us is, what pushed you into educational administration? For me, that's pretty easy. It was my wife and my kids who didn't allow me to be complacent. And what I mean by that is that it's easy to stay in something that you're good at. However, that doesn't necessarily mean it's where you should stay. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean it's the place that you can challenge others, that you can have the greatest impact. And so my wife and kids continue to challenge me in those areas. And that's what pushed me to be the leader that I currently am today. I want to thank SAANYS again. What a great honor. Thank you, and God bless.
Hi, my name is Joe Owens. I'm the supervisor of Fine and Performing Arts at the Mineola School District, and I'm the proud recipient of the 2021 SAANYS Leadership and Support Award. I'd like to express a sincere debt of gratitude to the kind people who nominated me and shared letters of support for this award, and of course also to SAANYS for sponsoring these awards. SAANYS reached out and asked us to respond to a prompt, and that was, outside of the pandemic period, what is the best professional advice that I've received in my career? And one of the best pieces of advice that I've received actually really rang true during the past 18 months. And that relates to some of the work that I've been fortunate enough to do in the arts education organizations, which is about advocacy. And that piece of advice was to make sure we always advocate when times are good, so that when times are bad, or when things get really challenging, that you have a foundation of support from which to draw. And that really rang true for me over the past 18 months, where I've been proud to say that the school district that I'm fortunate to be a part of has embraced the arts and pushed the arts forward, and made sure that even when other schools were canceling music and art programs, that we forged ahead and made sure we still gave meaningful opportunities for our students in the arts. And the result of that is a community who was very proud of the work that their kids were able to accomplish over such a challenging period of time last year. We were able to hold concerts and musicals and art shows, and our community was very appreciative for it. And building that support will always serve a community well, especially when it is in the name of doing right by kids. Thanks to SAANYS for allowing me to share my thoughts, and of course, thanks once again for this prestigious honor.
Hello, my name is Kevin Mulligan, and I am the proud recipient of the 2021 Irving Schwartz Award from SAANYS, which goes to a retired administrator. And in my case, I've been retired for going on 11 years, believe it or not. My administration career lasted 14 years. I had 20 years as a classroom teacher, which will be the first thing I will address. And it ended on a very good note for me. I ended up being the school superintendent, also the junior high and high school principal at Shazy Central Rural School in Shazy, New York, which is about 15 miles north of Plattsburgh. During that time as the superintendent, I still got to be the principal and with direct contact with the kids. And it was a great experience, a great way to close my career. It also happens to be in my hometown. To this day, many people in the community kind of consider me as the mayor of Shazy. We don't have a mayor, but they kind of say that I am. So I left on good terms with the school as well as with the community. My 34 years in education and teaching and administration, I want to leave these few things of advice. First of all, one piece of advice is for that young aspiring administrator is to bring with them to administration probably at least 5 to 10 years of classroom experience, teaching experience, or direct contact with students, such as a guidance counselor or a school psychologist. To have less than that, you would be kind of falling short with empathizing with the teachers on the issues that they are facing, especially in today's world. So one strong advice is get some classroom experience. Know what it's like to be in the trenches, as we say. Personally, as I said, I taught for 20 years. 15 of those years was as a middle school social studies teacher. And I got my first job as a principal, as a middle school principal at Northeastern Clinton in Champlain, New York, where I was for 9 years. And then I went to Shazy for my last 5 years. So it provided a wealth of information for me and background knowledge that I could bring with me as an administrator. It certainly prepared me for my middle school experience, gave me a connection with the elementary experience as well as the high school experience also. The other bit of advice that I have is something that I didn't personally have to worry too much about. Be very honest with you, I never got a cell phone until I was age 55. When I became the superintendent at Shazy, that's when I got a cell phone. And as my wife got one as well, and the reason that we said we were getting one was to maintain contact for if we ran into problems, car issues, etc. The cell phone today, of course, has grown much more intense than it was when I got my first one in 2005. I very strongly encourage people to, in the social media world today, to make sure that you have a very strong personal filter of what you're putting out in social media of any sort. And if you don't, I offer you my sincere best wishes and good luck, because you're going to need it. If you think nobody's watching, the whole world is watching. And I very strongly encourage all people involved in schools today, as well as all professions for that matter, that you should have a very strong filter of what you're putting out there. And if you can't filter yourself, then perhaps you need to disassociate yourself with Facebook, Twitter, etc., those other social media entities. That would be my second bit of advice. My last bit of advice actually comes from my mother. My mother was the secretary to 5 superintendents in a school district on Long Island, East Islip, Long Island. She served as the personal secretary to 5 superintendents. And she gave me a quote when I went into administration: humor, never leave home without it. And that is probably the best advice that I could ever get from anybody, let alone from my mother. So that's basically my advice to all you administrators. I have total respect for the work that you're doing, especially in these times of the pandemic, and also with our social media world, and also with, I'm going to say it, it might be the wrong thing to say, but there's a lot of helicopters flying around schools nowadays, and it's mostly helicopter parents that I'm talking about. Thank you very much. Good luck and best wishes.
Hey, how you doing? This is Monroe County Sheriff Todd Baxter in Rochester, New York. It's an honor to talk to our friends in education. We work so jointly all the time with our friends at the school districts around Monroe County, whether it's school resource officers in the schools, building relationships with the kids, or the continuous improvement we're trying to do on safety, working with the staff, working with the principals and the administration. It's very, very important to us. I was asked to answer a couple questions. The first question I was asked to talk about was, what has been the greatest leadership challenge in the world of COVID? What are we experiencing? One of the things I think the pandemic gave us is an opportunity to learn from each other, an opportunity to adjust on the fly. Most of our organizations we couldn't shut off during COVID, so we had to learn from each other and work together and build new relationships, build new administrations, build new ways of doing business. And that's actually been fun. It's actually been an exciting part of our community that we all came together. The second thing I think COVID gave us is an opportunity to take a step back, to look at what we're doing, our policies, our practices, our procedures, and define what's really, really important to us. And I thought that was a great question that you guys posed to us is, what does the pandemic give us as far as opportunity? One of the things I love to do here at the Sheriff's Office, talk about stop doing. We had to turn a lot of things off temporarily. Now it gives us a chance to evaluate those things and see if we actually want to turn them back on or keep them on the stop doing list. So those opportunities have been great. And I think the last thing is that pause gave us an opportunity to reflect on who and what is really important to us as a community, as organizations, even with our own families. You know, what time is important, where are we spending our resources, our money, our time, and our efforts on. So it's been a great leadership challenge for all of us, for school districts, for law enforcement, but it's also been a great opportunity to tweak a few things and learn from each other and build those relationships. So thanks for the opportunity to speak for you.